The Cleveland Browns are set to face the Houston Texans Sunday, 1 o'clock in Houston. Your Week 16 Locked On Browns pregame show starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, wishing you all the merriest of Christmases as we all bunker in for a lovely holiday weekend. Cleveland Browns, 1 o'clock at the Houston Texans. Appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. And if you are not part of the Locked On Browns everyday crowd by now, well, get on the bus, Gus, and make a new plan, because you need to subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. You guys know the drill. We got to go more. We got to put in more legwork here. It's late in the year. And if we can't get finalizations on players till Friday, we will record on Friday night and give you guys one more episode. You guys are all here for me. It is most certainly the least bit I can do for you. Starting out, your Cleveland Browns. Jordan Kunaszyk out, obviously, with the calf injury. Ogbenai Okoronkwo, I think at this point for Ogbo, they are just hoping that maybe if and when they can play in the playoffs, that Ogbo Okoronkwo can be part of it. Juan Thornhill, the calf, still an issue. Really not much more to say on that. If he hasn't even, slightly participated in practice, you guys kind of know the drill on that. Anthony Walker, if you remember last Friday, Anthony Walker tweaked his knee in the walkthrough. Actually led to a knee scope yesterday. So Anthony Walker will not be playing today. On Sunday against the Houston Texans. Tough break, obviously. Browns could use certainly, one of their coaches on the field, so to speak, players that Anthony Walker is. Be something the Browns would love to have, but, guy can't go. We can't put him out there. Joe Bitonio will be questionable Sunday. Did get back to practice today in a limited capacity. Coach Stefanski did mention that they will monitor him. Obviously, you take into account, the back injury, the plane flight, obviously always something to deal with. How does he respond? How does his back respond? Is he okay getting off the plane? And obviously they're going to just wait and see and monitor him up until what will be 11:30 Sunday morning to see whether or not Joe Bitonio is ready to go. For the Browns, you'd love to play him maybe this week, get your business handled. If the chips fall where they may, then the Browns can sit Joe Bitonio if they choose in either one of the last two games or the last game. But you want to get your business handled first. So we'll see. Michael Dunn is obviously a more than able replacement. So we will see what the plan is for the Browns come Sunday if Joe Bitonio is either in or Joe Bitonio is, in fact, out. For the Houston Texans, and we kind of got this feeling all week long, their two top picks, two first-round picks. Quarterback C.J. Stroud will be out of this game with concussion protocol. Defensive end Will Anderson Jr., a high ankle sprain. Will Anderson Jr. will not be a part of the festivities. Their best linebacker, Blake Cashman, he will be out as well with a hamstring injury. The Texans list 3 players as questionable for Sunday. Defensive tackle Malik Collins will be questionable with his hip injury, limited all week. Wide receiver Nico Collins, he will be listed as questionable as well, limited all week with a calf injury. And linebacker Denzel Perriman, Achilles, limited all week, and he will be listed questionable as well. So a lot going on here, and certainly 11:30, certainly something to have your eyes on as the game day inactives get released by both the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. As today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks, we will give you your Cleveland Browns Week 16 PrizePicks lineup. I picked 5 Browns, and Joe Flacco is a over-under of 250.5 yards Wide a half. Come on, guys. Do you ever do any of this? If you're going over or under, you got to have the hook. Joe Flacco, 250.5. I'm actually going to say I'm going to go under on this just because I think the way this game, and I don't want to spill the beans here before we get to the final segment, but I think the way this game will work out for the Browns, you might not have to throw the ball late in the game. We'll see. This is going to be a tough one. Me, I'm going to go under. I would not be stunned, though, if you guys take the over on Joe Flacco at 250.5. Amari Cooper, 61.5. Look, there's a magical number we all know here for Amari Cooper. Has an opportunity to become the first Cleveland Browns wide receiver to go for back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Doesn't need 61.5 yards to get it. And we'll highlight Amari and hit the matchup that he is going to have on Sunday a little bit more here. But Amari Cooper, 61.5. You know what? I'm hitting it. I'm going to take the over. Amari Cooper's been able to show some big play reception ability over the last couple of weeks. And there's a good chance Amari could get 40 of that in one shot. So if Amari can do that, the road and the path to 61.5 is very, very attainable. David Njoku, 51.5. The Chief has been on a roll lately. And, we will talk about him, highlight him. I get a little bit further here going on in segment 2. David is on a roll right now. And the way the Browns are rolling and the way the Browns are executing and be able to get the vertical game involved the way that they have, I truly think that, this just opens up all the capabilities, all the talent that David Njoku has. 51.5. I'm smashing that over. I'm taking that one all day long. Elijah Moore, 24.5. I think this will be a bounce back game for Elijah Moore. I think last week he was one of the tendencies that the Chicago Bears were hoping to take away. So the Browns went other places. Obviously, you had a 100-yard day from Njoku. You had a 100-yard day from Cooper. You had a 50-yard day from Cedric Tillman. Had a 50-yard day from Marquise Goodwin. Elijah Moore, 24.5. I will take Elijah Moore and the 24.5 and the over. And Elijah Moore is going to score his first Cleveland Brown touchdown on Sunday in Houston. You want to bet that anywhere else, any other way? Go right ahead, knock yourselves out, kids. Last one, fifth one. Jerome Ford, 59.5 rushing yards. I'm going to take the over. This might be me hoping the Browns can get the run game on track because I think it is so desperate that they need to get the running game on track here over the last couple of weeks. Houston Texans did a fantastic job defending Derrick Henry last week. I think you're going to see, we've seen these ebbs and flows of Jerome Ford all season. I think we're going to see another high point of Jerome Ford on Sunday. So Joe Flacco, I'm going to take the over. Joe Flacco, I'm going to take the under. Amari Cooper, over. Njoku, over. Elijah Moore, over. Jerome Ford, over. For me, that is your Cleveland Browns PrizePicks lineup for week 16. Take that information, do what you want, disregard, bet it, however it is. I hope you all make some extra money here over Christmas weekend. We're going to move right along here. Going to look off some matchups here on offense, matchups on defense that I think will be key here. Jeff Lloyd, your pregame Locked On Browns. Everybody stick around. It's going to be an odd weekend. Obviously, we got Christmas Eve. We got a Browns game. You want your place decorated. You want to make sure you got all your things and your goodies up. You can get prepared before game day. You can stock up on your favorite appetizers and order all your tailgate gear on DoorDash and then get ready to watch the Cleveland Browns win. Get 50% off up to $10 value and spend $50 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and you enter the code LOCK23, subject to change. Terms apply. Look, whether it is your food for Christmas Eve, whether it's your food for the game, DoorDash app has got you. Whether it's coming from the food store, or whether it's coming from one of your favorite restaurants, go ahead and make sure DoorDash is part of your Christmas Eve and also a part of your Cleveland Browns game day Sunday. That is 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. Subject to change, terms apply. Don't forget to use code LOCKED23 for 50% off to a $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more. Again, subject to change, terms apply, and we got food on the way. Jeff Lloyd, your Week 16 Cleveland Browns pregame show. Cleveland Browns traveling to face the Houston Texans on Sunday, 1 o'clock. trying to give us all our first best Christmas gift of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I, of course, am your host, Jeff Lloyd. Again, look, first things first, Merry Christmas to every single one of you. You guys mean the world to me. I get to do this, but it doesn't mean a hill of beans without you guys all coming out to listen. So I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. And if you are not part of the Locked On Browns Everyday crowd, number one, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself and subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, the show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. No, I'm not having an issue with the neck. Got a button-down shirt underneath. Forgot to take it off. So a little uncomfy doing this one. Some of the top matchups for me this weekend. On the offensive side of the ball, we'll start there. David Njoku. The key to David Njoku, and the phrase that always been used with David Njoku and where it could be the successful part of David Njoku's career is, he is too fast for linebackers. He is too big for defensive backs. Well, Christian Harris, and you guys heard John Hickman the other day talking about Christian Harris, and his play has stepped up. David Njoku is too athletic and too fast for Christian Harris. Safeties. Jimmy Ward started his NFL career as a corner, a little bit undersized as a safety. Jalen Petrie had a really nice game against the Cleveland Browns last year. That was Deshaun Watson's first game ever as a Cleveland Brown. These guys are too small for David Njoku. The Chief should continue to eat, and hopefully a couple nights in a hotel away from home, the Chief will be 100% Sunday against the Houston Texans. Amari Cooper against young Derek Stingley. Stingley is a fantastic corner, but you got to think the Browns are going to find ways to hopefully have Amari Cooper away from that matchup. We've seen Coop on the left. We've seen Coop on the right. We've certainly seen Coop play the slot. So you want to hopefully make this, if it's going to be where Stingley's on his game and maybe he's taking Amari Cooper out of the mix, you got to move Cooper around. But Amari Cooper is one of the most savvy veteran wide receivers in the NFL. His footwork is fantastic. His route running is fantastic. I don't know if it matters who the corner is facing Amari Cooper, because he is so nuanced in his route running, so nuanced in getting his head to the ball, his hands and his eyes working as one. Obviously, Amari Cooper versus young Derek Stingley should be a really, really great matchup. This one, Joe Flacco to Mecco Ryans. What is the one thing I had talked about with Joe Flacco? Everydayers know when Joe Flacco first started against the Rams, second start against the Jaguars, and a little trickle down into the Bears game as well, is there wasn't a ton of film to go off. So how are you supposed to come up with this game plan when you don't really have a lot? Well, we've got three Joe Flacco games of him being quarterback to Cleveland Browns. DeMeco Ryans is no dummy. DeMeco Ryans is an extremely smart defensive mind, and he can do what he's going to be able to do in Houston is going to be incredible. They are going to be a power franchise in the AFC for a long, long time to come. DeMeco Ryans excelled in San Francisco and has showed in year one with a bunch of young kids that he can excel in a head coaching position here with the Houston Texans. He's going to try to show Joe stuff he hasn't seen in a while. He's going to try to show Joe stuff that certainly has not been on any tape for the Houston Texans. He's going to obviously try to make Joe confused and hopefully confuse, a younger receiver like Cedric Tillman. DeMeco Ryans, you didn't get to 8-6 just because of CJ Stroud. You got to 8-6 in large part because of DeMeco Ryans as well. Those are my three key matchups to watch on the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball, Myles Garrett, Laremy Tunsil. I mean, if you are a fan of pass rusher versus pass blocker, this is one you sign up, you pull up to the edge of the seat, you make sure you got the best seat in the house on Christmas Eve to get that view of Myles versus the left tackle for the Houston Texans. I'm not sure how it's going to go. And the other thing is the Browns obviously are so smart and, let Myles kind of freelance and, move Myles around. And this is the joy of what you have with the defensive line, even with the injuries that the Cleveland Browns have, is you allow a player like Myles Garrett to move around. That is a big, big one. And obviously is going to create mismatches and it's going to create difficulties for everybody else on that Houston Texans offensive line. But Myles Garrett versus Laremy Tunsil, if you're a trench guy, this is must-watch TV. We're going to go with Sione Takitaki. Couple reasons. Obviously, Anthony Walker will be unavailable for a second week in a row. Sione has done a fantastic job as basically the thump linebacker here. JOK, there's not enough superlatives we can say about what JOK has done this year. And again, in my mind, one of the most improved defensive players in the entire NFL. But also for Sione Takitaki, this is where it went bad last year. This is where the knee injury happened in Houston. So Sione to go back there, and it's nothing, no, malicious, none of that. But Sione Takitaki remembers what happens there. And look, we're getting to the point where Sione Takitaki is starting to look behind that door. Free agent at the end of this year, much as he was last year when he went down there. The knee injury happened, worked out for the Browns. They kept him in. He could keep his training, his rehab, et cetera, with the Browns. But, Sione's, certainly wants to put up some numbers here and you'll close the season strong. And then, see where, what's going to lie for him in 2024. Will a career continue with the Cleveland Browns, or will Sione Takitaki look to go somewhere else? But for Sione Takitaki, this is a big game. Obviously, you need to step up with Anthony Walker being out, but also you're going back to where it was the low point of your NFL career, where you tore that ACL. Looking for Sione Takitaki to bounce back strong Sunday in Houston. Can the rest of the defensive line continue to be the band to the star attraction that is Myles Garrett? For a couple of weeks, we had some issues. We all know. Pass rush non-existent pretty much against the Rams. Pass rush pretty much non-existent against the Denver Broncos. Got a little uptick against Jacksonville Jaguars. And then all of a sudden, the boys were back last week against Chicago Bears. You're going to get Case Keenum, smart, savvy, veteran. Release, wouldn't say it's slow, but I also wouldn't say it's quick. But the athletic ability of Case Keenum, it's just not much. And if Nico Collins cannot go, which means Tank Dell is out and Nico Collins could be out, these Browns corners should be on lockdown. Should be on absolute lockdown against the Houston Texans. Dalton Schultz versus the safeties is another one you're certainly going to want to watch out for. But this line, can they continue to work in unison with number 95? Can they continue to pick up all of these quarterbacks either jumping in the pocket, having to run for their lives away from number 95, and find a way to get theirs? If this D-line continues to play in unison and in harmony with Myles Garrett, this should be an easy day, and it should be a highly, highly productive day for the Cleveland Browns defensive line down in Houston. So those are my biggest matchups to watch for on the offensive side of the ball, biggest matchups to watch for on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to continue on here. Your Week 16 Cleveland Browns pregame show continues, and everybody stick along for the ride. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. I already gave you my Cleveland Browns lineup for this week. You want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each and every week. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. I told you, Flacco under, Coop over, Njoku over, Moore over, Ford over. Make sure you check all that out on prizepicks.com. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL, promo code LOCKEDONNFL, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Jeff Lloyd, we're going to close it out here. Week 16 pregame show. Cleveland Browns, Houston Texans, 1 o'clock in Houston. And it's the joy of Christmas weekend. I guess the biggest question here is, are the Cleveland Browns going to be Santa Claus, or are the Cleveland Browns going to be the Grinch? I got to be honest. This is probably one of the most sure games that I have been this entire season. This Cleveland Brown team right now, it feels like they are just smelling it. They're feeling it. They know it. They know that their path to the playoffs is close. We don't even know if Zach Wilson can play on Thursday Night Football next week. So the Browns could face Case Keenum, Trevor Siemian. The Browns could face a second-string quarterback, a third-string quarterback, and a second-string quarterback to run out the string. We always thought this was going to be an easy string for the Cleveland Browns late in the season. And however this route is that they got there, and no, they didn't just get on the highway and go, and it's been a lot of this and that. And at sometimes we went backwards, then we went forwards, and we took a left when we should have went right. But the Cleveland Browns are 9-5. They are the number one seed for the wild card in the AFC as we stand right now. They still hold a one-game lead. There is still going to be attrition below the Cleveland Browns. But the last thing you want to be doing this close to the finish line is start to look at the scoreboard or start, backing in. Control your destiny. Control what can happen. Look, there are still better things available for the Browns than to be the top wild card seed in the AFC. A lot of that's out of their control, but they can control being the top wild card team in the American Football Conference here in 2023. I don't have much fear in Case Keenum. I got to be honest. And this, he knows him. Look, even when Case Keenum was here, which was 2 years ago, it wasn't all that impressive. Was he good? Okay. Had a nice Thursday night game against the Denver Broncos, beat a Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengal team to close out the season. No, I just don't see it. I think the Browns are going to give Case Keenum more than he can handle. I think Jim Schwartz smells blood in the water. And I think Jim Schwartz, in unison with Kevin Stefanski, wants to get that X next to the Cleveland Browns name as fast as possible. As fast as possible. So if they can clinch, they want it, and they want it quickly. They want the opportunity to possibly rest some guys here down the stretch if they so choose, if the other teams and opportunities break their way. Control your own destiny. Go seize your spot for the AFC wild card as soon as possible. And I think this team, after all they've been through this year and staying on course and staying on path, I think the Cleveland Browns most likely are going to win this game and probably going to win it pretty handily. If you told me the Cleveland Browns go in there and they win 24-10, it wouldn't stun me. If you told me Joe Flacco throws for about 250, Jerome Ford goes for darn near 100, Coop, Njoku, Elijah Moore gets his first touchdown as a Cleveland Brown, you're going to get 2 to 3 turnovers on the defensive side of the ball. You're going to sack Case Keenum 4 to 5 times. You're going to continue to get solid special teams play from your punter, from your kicker, from your coverage units. I just don't see a scenario where this becomes a difficult game for the Cleveland Browns. I think in years past, games like this certainly scared the death out of me, scared the death out of you, probably even scared the death out of some of the Browns because they didn't know the ultimate focus that their team had. I have zero doubt about the focus of this team, this 1-0 per week mantra. It's, again, there is some corniness to it, and I'm not, it is. But when it works, it can be corny, like shower on your, like fungus on your shower shoes. If it works, nobody's going to question it. And the Browns are getting it done. And I don't think anybody's questioning about how. They just know that whatever players take the field for the Cleveland Browns and jump into those uniforms, those guys are going to give everything they have. And more often than not, they're going to win more than they lose. That's just the way this team is. The urgency of getting it right on the road is there. Obviously, most likely that path is going to be on the road for the Browns in the playoffs. They've got to get this better. I think the running game is going to get better. I think defense is going to play lights out. And I also think that a team that plays in Northeast Ohio is certainly going to love the fact that they can go play a Christmas Eve game in a lovely temperature-controlled environment of 70 degrees in Houston Texans against a team that is missing their top pass rusher, their top quarterback, one of their top receivers, their top linebacker, and are in a really, really difficult position because are they playing for now or are they playing for down the road? And even though the Houston Texans would love to win this game because it lowers the Cleveland Browns draft choice, which certainly belongs to the Houston Texans, last one, again, thank God, all freaking mighty, and we'll be done with all that talk about that Deshaun Watson trade. Cleveland Browns are going to go to Houston, and they're going to beat the Houston Texans 24-10. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. Appreciate each and every one of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. Join the everyday crowd. You need to be part of the everyday crowd. It doesn't cost a dime. You don't need to know anybody. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel, on the Locked On Browns YouTube channel, and you are in. Shows are always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Merry Christmas. I love you all, and we will talk on Sunday. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go, Browns.